Flayer Arcanist and just thought, yeah, I'd like a better spellcaster than that. Well, then I got a monster for you. His name is the Alhoon. Unfortunately, he's already dead. So there's that. Of course, this week, continuing our train with the Mind Flayers, as we go through and through each type of Mind Flayer until we eventually get to the Lord, and then talk about how to build your colony. We're talking about the Alhoon. Now, of course, this is coming from Mordenkainen's tome. I was thinking Volo's tome of. Oh my gosh, I am getting so lost here. So I was thinking Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, but this was also in Volo's Guide to Monsters originally, which is where the confusion lies. Of course, if you're watching live on Twitch, welcome. I'll chat with you in chat as we go. If you're on YouTube or anywhere else, hit that subscribe and come over to Twitch. Join us over here on the dark side, because we want to start doing some giveaways and we want to hit some affiliate to get there. So we're making that push there. Of course, I'm your GM Isaiah, and welcome to Game Master's Arsenal. Now, let's talk about this Alhoon. Now, what the Alhoon is very important. So understanding where this fits into the hierarchy of the Mind Flayer colony helps to understand what a Mind Flayer Alhoon is. Now, the name Alhoon comes from a group of Alhoon, Mind Flayers, Arcanists, who found a spell book and went down the path of arcane wizardry instead of psionic. So focusing on arcane wizardry, which is frowned upon by the Elder Braid, who wants to focus on their psionic magics. They found this book of arcane wizardry, went down the path of that, eventually to find a pseudo-lichdom. The goal of the Alhoon Arcanist is to achieve lichdom, and the Alhoon is a type of it. Now, there are Mind Flayer Liches, and we'll get to them eventually, but as far as we're concerned, with the Alhoon are usually found in groups of 3. I'd say easy 3 to 5 Alhoons. They are undead creatures, and they need to sacrifice souls, which means they're not very nice. And the reason they do this is because the Alhoon do not have a afterlife like Mind Flayers. Now, when a Mind Flayer dies, its consciousness is subsumed into the Elder Brain's collective hive mind. And so because of that, it doesn't work, because an Alhoon is banished from a colony or flees a colony as soon as they go down the path to become an Alhoon. Now, like many Liches, they need to build a phylactery. Now, it is not called a phylactery. They call it something different. It is a periapt of mind trapping. Alhoon need to build these. It's usually made out of silver and amethyst. It's usually about the size of your fist, and it requires 3 Mind Flayer Arcanists to make. Now, this type of thing, when they make it, somebody has to hold on to it. And normally they pick one to hold on to it. It is a great responsibility, but it's also an act of trust for the Alhoon, because essentially whoever holds the periapt of mind trapping has the chance just to kill all the other Alhoon. Now, that means that the target of a lot of kill quests for the Alhoon is to get this periapt and destroy it, so that they can't, so that it just kills all of them, because now they're no longer technically immortal. And how the periapt work is they sacrifice somebody's soul to it. And anybody else hear the train? They don't usually come by. Now, they sacrifice somebody's soul to it. When they sacrifice somebody's soul to the periapt, they gain the person's lifespan in years, which means sacrificing an elf is more valuable than sacrificing a human. So they're after those lifespans. And that also leads to where Alhoons might be hunted and kind of how your story progresses. Now, how you build your story with an Alhoon for your quest is people are being kidnapped. It's the easiest way to do it is people are being kidnapped from a town. Specifically, elves are being targeted. Young elves are being targeted. They're being kidnapped, and they don't know what's going on. Of course, these creatures are out there. They're living in a cave somewhere or in their own little base, and what they're doing is they're bringing these elves in, either holding them or just straight up sacrificing them to the Periapt. Now, that's an easy way of building this. Alhoon, as a character, you're not going to deal with them a lot because of how evil they are, but if for some reason your characters deal with an Alhoon, it's going to be one of two ways. It's either going to be as a villain, as somebody to kill. They're like, I like to call them pseudo-liches. They're mini liches. They're not going to be, they're your party's chance to fight against a lich without having to fight against a lich. Because liches will one-shot everybody. You gotta have to be running a high-level campaign. So Alhoons are your easy way of getting liches without getting liches. And if they're going to deal with this creature, usually what it is they're going to be after information on the Alhoons colony. Maybe they're going to eradicate the colony. They can strike a deal with the Alhoon who's been betrayed by the colony, and say, yes, we want to destroy your colony for you. And what information can you give us? Of course, you'll have to trade something to the Alhoon because it's not going to give it up for free, although it's lust for revenge. Its lust for revenge might drive it, but it's more concerned with staying alive than anything, so it might want a sacrifice. Now, the good news is Alhoon like privacy. Alhoon either like privacy or they want to dominate the elder brain that betrayed them in the first place. What that means is that the Alhoon has goals that you can deal with, and as a GM, being able to have goals. Not just goals, but very consistent and easygoing goals to kind of throw in the background. This Alhoon is doing something. If he's left alone, he is going to be sacrificing people. He is going to be working on this trail to dominate a colony. Of course, your characters, when they come up against this thing, might not know it's an Alhoon in the first place. And that's because Alhoon are not very distinct from mind flayers, and that's on purpose. So Alhoon are exactly like mind flayers, except for the fact that their skin is dry and cracked. And if a character hasn't seen a mind flayer before and hasn't studied a mind flayer before, they might think they're going up against a standard mind flayer. If as a GM, that's a way you can get a surprise off of a bunch of players who go, oh, we're up against a mind flayer. And then suddenly this thing throws an arcane bolt at somebody, and they go, this isn't a normal mind flayer. Or they go, this is how strong mind flayers are? You can subvert expectations by putting an Alhoon where a normal mind flayer would be. And so when you're building that, it's very easy to do that. If your players are going to destroy it, you're going to build the dungeon. They're going to be the Alhoons are going to be protecting their Periapt, which means the innermost sanctum will have it. Whichever mind flayer has the Periapt will be the one defending it. And so when you build your dungeon with an Alhoon in mind, a group of Alhoon, because there's 3 of them, you need to remember that there's usually 3 of them. They like privacy, but they like to commune with each other, which means either they're going to be clumped together protecting their Periapt, and then you got a bigger fight on your hand, and you're going to need higher level characters, or you can have more of them if you have a larger party. But more than likely, if you're running a standard party of 4, you're going to want this guy with some minions on his own. You're going to have 3 of them, have 3 different fights planned. He's not... I'm going to pull up his stat block real quick. Boom. There it is. Your Alhoon, of course, is... How do I put this? The Alhoon is not a physical threat. Most of his big threats is from the fact that he is a powerful spellcaster. Now, 15 armor class, not bad. He is undead, mind flayer wizard, usually neutral evil. Speed of 30 feet, and a fly, he can hover 15 feet, which means he can stay in the air. Hit points 150. That's significantly more than a normal mind flayer. That's about double a normal mind flayer, which means he's going to be significantly tougher to one-shot. 11 strength, 12 dex, 16 con, 19 intelligence, 17 wisdom, 17 charisma. We're looking like a mind flayer, aren't we? The stat spread for mind flayers are pretty similar. Huge wisdom, intelligence, charisma. This guy's got saving throws to Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. All of his good stats he's got saving throws on. 7, 8, 7, 7. Con, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. I'm just flying through these because you can look at these stat blocks anywhere. And on the screen you can be reading them. So I'm doing this for the audio people and Force of Habit. It helps me as well. As far as skills, Arcana, Deception, History, Insight, Perception, Stealth. So he can be kind of stealthy. He's got resistance to cold, lightning, and necrotic, and immunity to poison. He cannot be charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned. Now, he can be stunned, which is interesting. He also can be grappled. He has true sight of 120 feet. You're not hiding from this guy. True sight means he's going to see through everything. I'm pretty sure true sight means he can see invisibility. Correct me if I'm wrong. As far as languages, he knows deep speech, undercommon, and has telepathy. He's a CR10 creature. Now, the reason why I blow through all those stats really quickly is because that helps set your stat block and how you're going to use this thing outside of combat. Its saving throws matter for inside of combat, but outside of combat is where the rest of these come in, other than resistance, immunities, and saving throws. Of course, base stats have their own thing, but, outside of combat is where there's skills, senses, languages, and then the challenge rating is the challenge rating. It has magical resistance, so advantage on saving throws against spells. It has turn resistance, so it has advantage in saving throws against turn undead, which means turn undead may not work, especially on a group of these guys. And, of course, against a bunch of spells. At will, it can cast Dancing Lights, detect magic, detect thoughts, disguise self, mage hand, prestidigitation. Once per day, it can cast Dominate Monster, Globe of Invulnerability, Invisible, Modify Memory, Plane Shift, and Wall of Force. Now, it has a variety of spells for different purposes, but you'll notice something that it doesn't have. None of those spells are major damage spells. Those are all stuff that can control the battlefield. Wall of Force, Plane Shift to get out, Invulnerability, Invisibility, Dominate Monster. The spell casting of the Alhoon isn't meant to deal damage. We'll get into that because there is an illithid spellcaster that deals with spell casting in a much major way, and we'll be covering that next week with the Illitharid. This guy in himself, his spells are meant to control the battlefield, causing disadvantages, knowing what magic the other person's using, disguising itself, mage hand, prestidigitation, dominate monster, globe of invulnerability. It is controlling the field, and then it has a spell to get out. Of course, as far as its actual actions go and its attacks, instead of choosing to cast a spell, it has multi-attack, so it can make 2 Chilling Grasp or 2 Arcane Bolts with a +8 to hit on each. Chilling Grasp does 4d6 cold damage, and he regains 14 health. That's a melee spell attack, so he's using this against the tank. When he's going in to fight hand-to-hand, which he does not do willingly. Again, this guy only has a 15 to his AC. He's a spellcaster at heart, which means strategically he's going to keep his distance and use his other ability. This does not do as much as his other attack, but in a pinch, this can get some damage and restore some health, either to allow him to deal with the opportunity attack of moving away or to stay in the fight longer. His other attack, of course, is still a +8 to hit. This one does 8d6 damage, which sounds like a lot. 8d6 damage, but that's only like 24 damage average, which is at level 10. That's nothing to sneeze at. This thing does have a maximum of, I believe that is 42 damage. So at max, this thing can hit for 42 damage. So you're looking at between 8 and 42 damage to somebody. And this is force damage, which means most people do not have resistance to this in any way. They're just taking the arcane bolt to the face. Of course, he's a mind flayer. What is a mind flayer without mind blast? DC 16 intelligence saving throw, or 4d8 plus 4 psychic damage, and be stunned for 1 minute. So there's the mind flayer stunning the group with an intelligence saving throw. He's still got it. He's still dangerous, which means he can stun, immediately throw a pair of arcane bolts at whoever's stunned, and take him down. Now, we have something here that I think this is the first time we're really seeing on Game Master's Arsenal, which is an ability to deal with our spellcasters fireballing him. As a reaction, he has negate spell. One target within 60 feet that's casting a spell, if the spell is third or lower, the spell fails. But any spell slots or charges are not wasted. Now, unlike a counter spell, this doesn't waste the spell slot, he gets it back. This is just a way of delaying that spell and repositioning, or, making sure that we now know the target. If a party rushes in and the Alhoon doesn't know who the wizard is, but as soon as somebody charges a fireball, he just goes, nope, everybody kill the spellcaster. Intelligent creatures, they fight with intelligence. Now, when you're building an encounter with that, you gotta remember that he fights with intelligence, strategic, tactical minded. So keep him back. He knows he doesn't want to be in the fray, so he's going to keep back for that arcane bolt. As if everybody's coming through a little doorway, he's going to hit them with a mind blast. Of course, it's only got a recharge of 5 to 6, which means he's only got a 1/3 chance of recharging. Now, as soon as they come through the door, they might get hit by a mind blast. Even worse, if he knows they're coming, he might be invisible, and now he gets the jump on them. He gets a surprise round where he throws a pair of arcane bolts, and it's like, ooh, that is a lot of damage at them. And of course, he just kind of picks someone at random. He wouldn't necessarily be able to tell which kind of spellcasters immediately, because if a sorcerer, a warlock, and a wizard walk through the door, they're all wearing common clothes or they're all wearing fine clothes. And unless your sorcerer is, for some reason, wearing the pointy hat, the wizard only knows that he's a spellcaster. And he goes, that's a spellcaster. I've seen spellcasters before. I know how dangerous they are. Arcane bolt. Now, if he gets somebody alone, that's where things are dangerous, because if he hits the mind blast, he can easily modify memory. Now, that is a dangerous spell to use against your party. You're gaslighting them. And as a DM, you do a lot of gaslighting to your party. As a DM, you know that you gaslight your party all the time. Oh, you've had that item forever. Scribbling in notes. Oh yeah, I remember that. Scribbling in notes. Right. I remember him. Right. Oh, right. I should probably make him the villain just in case. No, he's not the villain. He's completely fine. You do a lot of gaslighting for your party. And a lot of times they don't notice it. So having the literal ability to gaslight the party, rewrite the memory, modify memory so that the party, now maybe somebody who's prominent in the party now thinks they're friends with the Alhoon or work for the Alhoon. Of course, it's got to be a feasible memory, which means, you got to work with your player and be like, okay, we're building this memory. Does this sound feasible for your character to believe? When he met the Alhoon at first, he was fine. Now, this is a base modify memory. He doesn't get to modify memory all the way back through time. He gets 1 day, which means he can just modify the events of one thing. Now, this is another simple character, well made. And things get more complicated from here because we start to deal with the different kinds of mind flayers coming up with the ililthids, and we get into the politics of a colony. This is everything that we've got for you guys this week. The Alhoon, simple creature, well made. Keep him at a distance. Keep throwing spells. He is your mini lich. And it'll feel good for your party to kill a mini lich. So, of course, I'm your GM Isaiah, and that's where we're leaving it today.